Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nareman Hamdan, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Nareman Hamdan. Welcome to Driven, Unscripted Success podcast. Today on this podcast, we're interviewing professional and financially successful people that will share their experiences and tips with you of how they got to where they are today. So zooming in today, we have a duo. So we have Shane Fichter and Scott Sery.
Yes.
So both of these guys have been in the leadership, innovation, and business strategy space for between 11 to 15 years. And together, they run a group called Havoc Mindset, where they coach people no matter their situation.
Yes.
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
Good. So let's find out a little bit about what you guys got going on there. Can you give us a quick snapshot of your business right now, what you guys do, and what your company's about?
Yeah, Havoc Mindset is a coaching and speaking business. So I do some motivational speaking. Scott is actually like the writer behind the scenes. He's also the author of the book that we have coming out about my life story. And, you know, what Havoc Mindset is it's talking about, you know, taking all the havoc from your past and turning it into a strength and a superpower rather than a weakness or something that tells you that you're less than, right? Like we deeply believe that your success and the decisions you make and where you are in life, the relationships you have are all deeply tied to your self-worth, right? That story that you're telling yourself in your head about yourself and the world around us. And a lot of us have had things that have happened in our childhood and in our past, our havoc, that tell us that we're less than, that we're not good enough. And that's kind of what our whole program's about, our one-on-one coaching. Even when we go and do motivational speaking at schools, it's very much based around that. Drug prevention. I was a drug addict for a really long time, had multiple overdoses and, you know, really got myself into the ground and then kind of turned it around. So
good for you. I mean, good for you making good out of such a bad point in your life. And you know, I mean, I'm sorry you had to deal with drug dependency. I understand it because I've had a few people in my life that had that issue. Some of them came out of it. Some of them didn't, sadly. So well done.
Thanks.
Coming out on the other side, man. That's
yeah. I've got a lot of friends that didn't. You're right. A lot of friends.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. That's no bueno right there. So
yeah.
Well, good. So that's cool. So you mentioned that you go also to schools and I'm assuming you talk to students and kind of share your story and just teach them how to change that negative mindset into like a positive mindset. So they can be just more confident.
Yeah, definitely. You know, especially with teenagers, a lot of us, I know me personally, I was struggling at that time to figure out my identity. My mom was a drug addict. My father also committed suicide. So that was kind of where I kind of went down that road. So I just feel like if we can get in there and we can use my story and what me and Scott are trying to teach to change the mindset around their home life or maybe their failures and their successes, we can really change and impact for the better, you know?
Absolutely. So, I mean, being a coach, you know, I know there's a lot of competition in that space. You know, what sets you guys apart and what comes easy to you that others may find challenging?
I think it's a large part with Shane's background. He's been through all of this. And so I have a very opposite background as his.
Yeah.
Didn't go through any drug use. Grew up in mostly a 2-parent household until my mom passed away from cancer when I was a teenager.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't suicide. I didn't have the trauma that Shane experienced. And so I can kind of come in with the opposite perspective. And then as we work together, you know, Shane hired me to ghostwrite his autobiography that should be out early 2025.
That's awesome.
We take that whole life story. Shane created Havoc Mindset kind of around that And we jump into, now we have these two opposite perspectives that, even though my childhood was way better than his, I still have struggles that I'm overcoming. His was completely opposite. He has different struggles he's overcoming. And so we can tackle it that you don't have to come from a abusive home, a highly traumatic home. You come from a home and there's things that are holding you back, no matter if you were upper class, upper middle class, or dirt poor. We can figure out exactly where somebody is. And then through conversations, we know, okay, here's what we're seeing as your self-identity. Here's the things you're telling yourself that aren't true. And then we start working through those with some proven methods that help them to overcome what's holding them back, no matter what it actually is.
Yeah, I would say like one of the exercises that we do in our 12-week course, I actually got from drug rehab. So when I was in rehab, they did this. We changed it, but when I was in rehab, they had us do this thing called a timeline, and they had you pretty much write out all the good and bad experiences that you've had from your life that showed you how to get to your crime, right? And a lot of people in that situation, they've had a lot of traumatic things to get in jail or drug addiction or however they got there. But I started finding that all these hard situations in my life were what was creating all these limiting beliefs. So I went through and I have a lot of our clients do what we call a timeline, and I have them write out all those bad experience and whatever experience they might have had. Sometimes it might have been just losing and not being picked for a team or something as a child that can impact you really hardly. And then I asked them to ask themselves, okay, what skills, talents, and traits have you adapted from this situation? Like, how did you benefit? And it would honestly blow your mind. And I think that that's one of the things that really differentiates us from other coaches. Like, I know that I'll be more impactful than Tony Robbins because he doesn't come from where I come from. All the credit to Tony Robbins, but like, I feel like because of my stories, what's going to be so impactful? That's what's going to make it so different. I feel like you have a lot of coaches, a lot of speakers that portray it as if they don't miss, they don't fail, they don't mess up, they run it perfect, they wake up every day, they don't, and that's not true, right? Like I think that one of the things that makes Havoc Mindset so valuable is the vulnerability about the mistakes, the vulnerability about the failure, right? Learning to fail forward and fail your way to success, because that's all success is doing it the wrong way and then fixing it, and doing it the wrong way and then fixing it.
Yeah, totally. It's all about being able to be honest with yourself and knowing when to say, hey, you know what, I screwed up. What am I going to do to make this better? How am I going to learn from this so I don't repeat it?
Yeah.
And sometimes you tend to repeat it,
Oh yeah.
Again and again. But as long as, you're trying, I feel like you're constantly trying and taking accountability for your actions and your screw ups or, all of it. And then there's hope.
Yes.
And you change that mindset. You can train your brain to not be programmed like it was, knowing only one thing for so many years, which is hard to do. But if you've got coaches and a system that is implemented properly, then it totally makes a difference.
Definitely. And I think even repeating it sometimes is valuable. Like, even if you keep repeating those mistakes, you're learning more ways to not do it. You're having insight to other things, that you might not have had insight if you didn't keep repeating that situation.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. So let me ask you, everyone hits a bump in the road every now and then. Can you share a time or things that didn't pan out and how you got through it? I mean, you gave a couple like examples there, but how about like with your business and the coaching?
Yeah. Well, we can even start a little bit earlier than that. So like after I got locked up and turned my life around and, went to jail, I actually started fighting MMA. I became a professional MMA fighter. And I think that
fighter.
Yeah, I know. I am. Yeah. I became a professional. Yeah. And that actually, I think, added, once again, makes Havoc Mindset so unique, because the discipline that goes along with fighting, all of that is very valuable. And, you know, I didn't start fighting until I was 28 years old. And what I really had was grit. I had resilience. I was tough because of that childhood, because of that past that I had. I did a lot in the sport in a very short period of time. Like in 5 years, I went to Thailand, trained with some of the best fighters in the world, you know, fought in a world tournament in Colorado called the King of Sparta. And then I ended up getting a really bad concussion and having to retire from MMA. And, you know, at the time I felt like I was like this close to the UFC, this close to the big show. And, you know, I really give a lot of my success. And one of the reasons that I would bring this up is, you know, after that, it wasn't like things got easier when I got into business. Like there's always going to be pitfalls. There's always going to be things that happen. But I feel like if you're doing self-development, if you're journaling, you're meditating, you're tapping into yourself, you're reading the books, you're learning, you're trying to progress every single day, then these hard situations, these bumps in the roads that you're talking about are actually things that will end up catapulting you forward. So like after I got that concussion, I didn't go back to using drugs. I didn't fall down it even farther because I knew where I was going. I knew I wanted to be a motivational speaker. I was journaling. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So I came back to Montana and started this business called The Patch Guy, which was my drywall business. And I did drywall my whole life. So I started this like patch and remodel business and, you know, started channeling once again. I feel like that addictive, compulsive behavior that I put into MMA from drug addiction into entrepreneurship and this drywall business. And that business did really well, did 250,000 gross revenue first year. And then not long after that, I started the first kava bar in Montana, and there's bumps everywhere in here. I ended up selling the Patch Guy for not enough money because I hated drywall. At the first kava bar I opened, the partnership didn't work out. So I felt that fell through, but just kept moving forward, kept doing the therapy, kept doing the working out, kept doing the meditation, kept checking in with myself and where I'm going. And honestly, I think that was a big part of meeting Scott because I feel like he was already kind of in this space for a long time. He's already, you know, been working at these things from a lot younger age than me. So he had a very good impact on me, a very big, good influence. We started writing my book about 4 years ago. We're almost done now.
Good.
We've had some, you know, bumps in the road and changes. Have you heard of,
It adds more to the book, you know.
It does. It does. Have you heard of kava?
I have. I'm in Naples, Florida. There's a couple kava shops around here.
Perfect. Yeah, I've been in Naples. That's where I found kava, was in Fort Lauderdale, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's different.
It is. It is. It is. So the kava bar, we're actually sitting in a kava bar right now, called the Kava House. It's in Billings. It's the second one I opened. And we did, in the first year and a half, we did $980,000. So
Wow.
yeah, it did really good. Gross revenue, gross, not net. But
Yeah. That's great.
yeah, it's been killing it. And for the listeners, I guess I'll tell them kind of what kava is, if that's okay.
Sure.
You know, kava is kind of like a drinking alternative, but it was, you know, originated by the Polynesians. It's from the South Pacific. It's a plant that they would take out of the ground. They would grind up the root, strain it with water, and you shoot it from a coconut shell. And what it does is the kava lactones in kava will lower your anxiety levels and give you that social, bubbly, talkative feeling that alcohol would give you, but none of the drunken impairedness. So it's very beneficial for people who are trying to quit drinking, you know, especially I feel like the world these days is looking for healthier options. So it's just been an amazing thing, especially for the Billings community. I feel like everybody that comes to this kava bar is looking for self-development. They're trying to be 1% better. You know, we've got a lot of business owners that hang out in here, a lot of business owners that we've coached with Havoc Mindset.
Nice.
And we run a yearly challenge every year. So yeah, it's been cool. I think kava is something that's kind of blowing up all over the United States. So everybody get ready for it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of those shops around here. And I checked one out. I think maybe it was 2 years ago. My personal trainer had suggested I go get myself a kava. I didn't care for it personally. I don't like being I like being in control.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just a body buzz and, but yeah, I could see how people do like it and how it can help them and calm them and and even medicinally, if they've got pain or whatnot. But it was interesting. I like the place. The place was cool. It's like a coffee house. It's just people there socializing and working and doing their thing. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a total vibe for sure.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So if someone listening to us now wants to get better at, let's say, coaching, doing what you're doing, what do you suggest they do? What tips would you give them?
So one of the things that Shane has taught me, and one of the things he falls back on repeatedly, is learn how to put your back against the wall.
Yeah.
For most of us, most people, they don't really have that driving force because they have a backup plan. If my business fails, personally, my wife has a good job.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to, we could comfortably live off of her income alone. So I have to put my back against the wall if things aren't going forward in my business. Yeah. Just because otherwise I just get complacent and I sit around watching YouTube all day long rather than put in the effort to actually grow and make sure the business is good now, but in 6 months, I need to be looking farther ahead. And so if I don't physically, sometimes I'll even do this. I'll stand with my back against the wall to get myself into the right mindset and say, okay, I need to actually put some effort into this because I've gotten way too complacent the last 2 weeks and nothing is coming down the line.
Yeah.
And so anybody that is looking to start a business or in a business, learn how to mentally put your back against that wall. If you don't make it, you're going to fail. Even if you have the backup plan, even if your wife has a good income that is supporting you, put yourself against that wall so you can drive yourself forward. That's what Shane did when he was forced to retire MMA. He didn't have an income anymore. Yeah. And so he tapped into his network and opened a drywalling business and did really well the first year because his back was against the wall and he could mentally put himself there. Even though he was already there, he put his back even further against the wall.
Yeah.
In order to
really dug in there.
Yeah. In order to really propel forward. And so
they say burn the boats, right? Like a great example is actually when I was training MMA, in my mind, I felt like if I didn't continue to get better at MMA, I was going to end up back in jail. I was going to end up back where I was, right? Like there was this belief system going on in my head that I was going to end up being the old person that I was before. Or The Rock, right? Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, talks about this. He says when he was 6 years old, he came home and him and his mom lived in like a small little hut, no electricity, no running water, but they had an eviction notice on their door. And he remembers at 6 years old, he like had that back against the wall feeling, and he went out and he started doing odds and end jobs and working around Hawaii and, helping his mom pay the rent. He said that to this day at 40 years old, when he goes to set out to a goal, it's like in his mind, he's still that 6-year-old boy with his back against the wall, going out there and putting in that work. So yeah, like Scott said, I would say put that urgency into it. Don't stop. Make it, burn the boats. Don't give yourself a backup plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't give yourself an escape go.
Yeah,
get tough to be able to go. Oh, I could always do this. Like either you're all in or you're not.
For sure.
So, what's one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your career currently, like with the coaching?
I would say social media exposure, consistency with social media, which I think that we are now tackling. For me, I was running Kava Bar on the side. I was like always doing these other things on the side, so, honestly, for me, I have too many passions. That's what it is. I want to fucking do it all, right? I want to coach boxing. I want to coach MMA. I want to run a Kava Bar. I want to, do motivational speaking. So that's probably been my number one thing that holds me back. But now I believe we are like hyper focused on the coaching. We've got a great social media team. We've been doing Motivation Mondays, which is like a live broadcast right here out of the Kava House. That's a podcast. We're doing our own podcast now. And so, yeah, I would definitely say that's probably been one of the biggest things, because with the Kava Bar, what that kind of did for me was it created me to be coaching people in person rather than online. But without that online space and that online presence, the scalability is a lot harder. So
Yes.
that's probably like where we're now, getting past that roadblock.
Oh, good. Good. That's great. Well, it sounds like things are going well for you and for both of you in your business. As you guys look forward towards the future, I was wondering if and how you guys create any passive income, or if you have invested in the past.
I'm in crypto. But
You do.
yeah, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Scott writes books, so I think that turns into passive income, right? Eventually.
Yeah, eventually it can. It's really not a lot. Sales of books don't really provide much.
Yeah.
I have 2 investment properties. I own a duplex and a single family home that
Oh, awesome.
provide me income. So kind of when I
That's
look
passive
at,
income.
my income from my main business is a writing business, and then Havoc Mindset is kind of secondary to that. And so when I look at those incomes and I think, oh man, I'm hardly making anything, I have to look at all my investments as well. I bought a truck last year and I rented out on Turo. And so it's
Yeah.
7
More
months,
passive
I make
income.
about $7,000 take home off of that. So more than enough to pay for the truck and everything. And then I also have some investments. I got, long-term I have IRAs for myself and my wife. I also have a Robinhood account where I'm invested in a lot of dividend funds. And so
Nice.
right now they're all just reinvested because I don't need that income, but I could turn them so I get those dividends in cash. And so my long-term plan is to grow that account big enough that it's eventually, hopefully, going to take over my earned income. And so I can just live off the dividends my investments are earning for me.
Nice. Yeah, I have an IRA and I have a home that it was being for rent that we're actually getting ready to sell now. So then I'll probably take the equity of that and try to put it into something else and create some passive income with another rental. And besides that, I'm like all in on crypto. I like doing the crypto thing. I think that it's going to be a pretty big currency. I think it's going to be something that's for the future. So I like to, I have like some meme coins and I have some of that stuff too, like Cardano and stuff, but I try to like circle whatever I profit from those coins back into Bitcoin, back into those long-term coins that I think are going to last a long time. And as you know, I'm honestly like 5-6 years ago, I was a broke fighter. So I'm just getting into this whole thing. So I'm learning how to invest and how to plan for the future and do long-term stuff, so.
Good for you. Yeah. I mean, I haven't had a chance to check out the market this morning, especially after the election, the results came in. So I'm dying to see what the boom
It's creeping. It's going up. It is going up.
Yeah.
I looked already.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yesterday, Bitcoin was shooting up. This morning, a little thing pops up every now and then on the bottom of my computer. It said NASDAQ's up 2% or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The market is happy about what happened. Well, they're happy the election's over. Either way, most of the time the market will go up. It's just leading up to elections. Markets don't like uncertainty. Now that something has been certified,
Yeah.
now the market can kind of relax.
Tell by our smiles, we're all pleased.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, as we're wrapping up our interview, what exciting plans or initiatives do you guys have in the works for the next 6 to 12 months? I know you mentioned your book. So tell us about that.
Yeah, we have the book coming out. We also have our group coaching course that we're getting ready to launch called Academy of Hard Knocks. And it's, once again, like I said, you can kind of tell in the name, it's about, that havoc and those hard situations you've had in your life and changing the way you look at them, helping you find what you're passionate about, helping you find what your values are, helping you get out of this life that you don't want to live and into the life you do want to live. We also are going to be on Brad Lee's Dropping Bombs podcast here coming up pretty soon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's
I don't know who that is. Yeah.
very, very popular. Brad Lee was I know at one time he was like going to be partners with Grant Cardone. It's Brad, LEA. And then, yeah, his podcast is dropping bombs. A lot of big guys have been on there. Justin Whaler. He was just on an episode last night, I think, with, the brothers, Andrew Tate and his brother. He was on with them last night. So yeah. So that's going to be huge. Actually, I'm not sure.
Exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it's
coming out.
What's that?
When's your book coming out?
We're shooting for mid-January launch. We have a bunch of things we got to just clean up. It's all written. It's just there's notes all over in it to, modify this, change this. We got to restructure this because of, we started in spring of 2021, and then there were various setbacks where we had to take 6-8 months off.
Yeah, so you guys are getting final editing together and
and so
launch it out, dude. That's exciting.
Tentatively now it's tentatively titled Addict, and then we're working on a subtitle, something about overcoming challenges, something about transforming from chains to champion.
Good.
Yeah.
Basically, it starts from Shane's earliest memories until about 2021, 2022, opening the Kava bar, and then set the stage for now the last 3 years, all these big changes that have happened, and we can do a second book that'll kind of dive more into where life is now.
Yeah, the cool thing about the book too is how I actually got like inspired to want to write it. At first, I was in jail and I was reading this book called Tweaked, and it was kind of explaining this one guy, Nick Sheff's drug addiction and his story of making it through drug addiction. And then later, though, in jail, I was like, you know what, I want to write a book about my life. Well, then later, I was reading Matthew McConaughey's book Green Lights, and
I just listened to that one. It was really good.
Really good. And what I loved about it was he's sharing his life experience, but then he's sharing the things that he learned from that life experience.
Yes.
So that's very much what our book is. It's going through my life, but it's sharing, things that I've learned or that you can learn from your own life. And then the last 2 chapters is very much wrapped around mindset, around the teachings that are going to come from my story. So it's cool. I'm excited.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's a great way of writing it. It's more of it's an autobiography, but it's more of a telling stories.
Yeah, for self-development.
Yeah. And then sharing, okay, well, kind of screwed up on this, but not from it, So I really enjoyed his book. I listened to it while I was in the car. I mean, I was addicted to it. I get in the car and I'm like,
I know.
Yeah, I know when it ended, I was like, oh no. It was that
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
Laughing. Yeah, that's a good book. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. It was great chatting with you and hearing your story. So if viewers or anyone wanted to get a hold of you guys, how do they do that?
So we have a website, havocmindset.com. And if you're looking for a motivational speaker, public speaker, we do workshops. I just did a workshop with a whole dentist office and there's 70 employees. Go to havocmindset.com/media kit. And that'll be our whole media kit where you can sign us up for speaking. And then you can also find me at Shane Havoc Mindset on Instagram. It's Shane Havoc Mindset also on TikTok, and Scott Sery on Facebook. And I believe it's Scott Sery on Instagram as well too. Yep. If you're looking for a writer, he's your man. He's a genius.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. And thanks everyone for listening in, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.